In a quiet cabin nestled on the edge of a pine forest, lived an extraordinary bobcat named Orion. Rescued as a kitten and raised by a dedicated wildlife rehabilitator, he remained wild at heart, yet adapted to domestic life in remarkable ways. His intelligence and intuition often left his human companions stunned. From adjusting the thermostat to assisting Elaine's aging golden retriever, Cooper, with daily tasks, Orion could also turn on lights, fetch specific items, and appeared to understand human emotions, forming a deep and unbreakable bond with both Elaine and Cooper. He wasn't just a companion, he was a guardian and a marvel, straddling the line between wilderness and warmth. Could his astonishing abilities reshape not only one family's world, but also challenge what we believe about animal potential? This is the story of a bobcat whose brilliance defied expectations, whose empathy bridged species, and whose presence forced us to rethink the boundaries between wild instinct and familial connection. Before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and tap the notification bell so you never miss another incredible story. In a sun-dappled cabin at the edge of the Ozark Mountains in Arkansas, wildlife rehabilitator Dr. Elaine Foster had created a family unlike any other. For 15 years, she'd devoted her life to rescuing and releasing injured animals. But Orion, a sleek bobcat with black-tipped ears and keen amber eyes, had always been different. Elaine found him 6 years ago during a violent spring storm, a tiny, soaked bundle of fur abandoned in a hollow log, umbilical cord still attached. His mother never returned, perhaps taken by a hunter or unable to care for her smallest cub. Whatever the reason, Orion had been alone until Elaine stepped in. You wouldn't believe what he looked like back then, she often told visitors, motioning to the now 30-pound feline lounging on the window seat. He could fit in my palm. I had to bottle feed him every 2 hours. Her elderly golden retriever, Cooper, had instantly taken on the role of caretaker, licking Orion's face after meals and curling protectively around him during naps. Now at 12, with a graying muzzle and stiff joints, Cooper still doted on the bobcat, though their roles had subtly reversed over time. When state wildlife officials came to assess Orion's rehabilitation prospects, the verdict was final. He had imprinted too strongly on humans. He lacked the fear necessary to survive in the wild. Elaine had been quietly relieved. By then, Orion had already proven himself to be something exceptional. Elaine's neighbor, Frank Wilson, a retired biology professor with an encyclopedic mind and a fondness for field notes, visited one evening to observe him. I've studied wildcats for 4 decades, he said, watching Orion arrange wooden blocks by size. I've never seen anything like this. This isn't just training, he's reasoning. That's exceedingly rare, even in domesticated animals. Frank had jokingly claimed Orion's IQ must be around 200. The comment stuck, especially after Orion began doing things no one thought possible. One brisk autumn morning, Elaine sat at her kitchen table sipping coffee, immersed in veterinary files. Cooper snored in the corner, twitching in his sleep. The cabin had grown cold overnight, but in the chaos of tending to a rescued owl, Elaine had forgotten to turn on the heat. From his perch above the room, Orion watched Elaine shiver. With feline grace, he descended his custom platforms, padded silently to the thermostat, stood on his hind legs, and pressed the up arrow 3 times. The heat kicked on. Well, thank you, Elaine chuckled, glancing up. Warm air streamed from the vents. Orion blinked at her slowly, his version of a smile, then padded off to nudge his empty water bowl with a soft clink. All right, I'm on it, Elaine said, rising to fill it. These routines had become so familiar that Elaine sometimes forgot how extraordinary they really were, until family visited. Her sister Jennifer arrived from Chicago with her 8-year-old twins. Aunt Elaine, do you really have a bobcat? Max shouted, hopping out of the car. A wild bobcat, Maya corrected. Mom says he's smarter than some people. Jennifer gave an apologetic smile. I might have oversold your pet a bit. They've been obsessed for weeks. He's not quite a pet, Elaine explained, guiding them toward the porch. He's a wild animal who lives with me because he can't live on his own. We've worked out an arrangement. Where is he? Maya asked, peeking through the screen door. Watching us, probably, Elaine replied. He likes to keep an eye on newcomers. Cooper greeted the children with slow tail wags as Jennifer looked around, visibly tense. Relax, Elaine said. Orion's never been aggressive. He's shy with strangers, but he's always been gentle. Especially with kids. Let him come to you. Their first glimpse of him came at lunch, when a sleek, tawny shape appeared in the doorway. Orion paused, eyeing the guests. Oh, wow, Maya whispered, frozen mid-bite. He's beautiful. Stay still, Elaine said gently. Let him decide. What happened next left even Elaine momentarily stunned. Orion approached the table slowly, his gaze fixed on Max, who struggled to open a chip bag. Orion sat, extended a paw, and with his teeth tore the top off cleanly, then sat back watching. Did he just open that for me? Max whispered. He did, Elaine said, beaming. He saw you needed help. That's unreal, Jennifer murmured, her curiosity overtaking her nerves. Oh, that's just the beginning, Elaine said with a laugh. That afternoon, Orion dazzled them. When Maya lost a colored pencil under the couch, Orion retrieved it, then fetched the same color from a backup set. While Max built a block tower, Orion corrected a misaligned piece that would have toppled the whole thing. But it was what happened. At sunset, that truly amazed them. As the cabin dimmed, Maya squinted at her plate. It's getting dark in here. Before Elaine could respond, Orion leapt onto a side table, tapped a lamp's base 3 times until it brightened fully, then did the same with 2 others around the room. Did he just turn on the lights? Jennifer asked, frozen mid-chop. Chop in her hand, Elaine spoke casually, as if describing a roommate's quirk rather than a wild animal's behavior. He prefers good lighting, she explained. Gets irritable if he can't see clearly after sunset. Later, as they enjoyed their meal, a sudden gust of wind rattled the windows, sending a chill through the room. Orion's ears twitched at the sound. He padded over to a chest in the corner, nudged open the lid with his nose, and pulled out a folded throw blanket with his teeth. Dragging it across the floor, he laid it at Mia's feet, where she sat hugging herself against the cold. He noticed. You are cold, Elaine said, as Mia gratefully draped the blanket around her shoulders. But how does he know what a blanket is for? Max asked, fork suspended in midair. He watches, Elaine replied simply. He makes connections. After dinner, as the family gathered in the living room for board games, Orion's behavior became even more extraordinary. He positioned himself between Cooper and the children, acting at times as a backrest for the aging dog, who leaned against him with obvious relief. When Cooper's favorite chew toy rolled under a cabinet, Orion retrieved it without being asked. They're like best friends, Maya said, watching the unlikely pair. They understand each other, Elaine agreed. Cooper helped Orion when he was vulnerable. Now Orion returns the favor. The full depth of Orion's capabilities became clear the next morning. Jennifer awoke to a quiet cabin and assumed everyone was still asleep. She wandered into the kitchen for coffee and discovered a note on the counter, emergency call from the Wildlife Center. Injured eagle brought in at dawn. Help yourself to breakfast. Back by noon. Don't worry about Orion and Cooper. They have their own morning routine. Jennifer sipped her coffee and moved to the window, only to freeze at the sight outside. In the misty backyard, Orion was guiding Cooper down the gentle slope toward the pond. The old dog's gait was stiff, his joints clearly aching. With measured steps and steady patience, Orion stayed close, pressing his body against Cooper's side whenever he wobbled. At the water's edge, Cooper lowered himself to drink while Orion stood watch, then turned and led the slow return back up the hill. Jennifer opened the door to let them in, her coffee forgotten. You look after him, don't you? She murmured. Orion blinked slowly in acknowledgement before escorting Cooper to his bed. Then something happened that left her fumbling for her phone. Orion approached a low cabinet, hooked his claws into the handle, and opened it. Inside, neatly arranged, were containers of medications and supplements. The Bobcat selected the one labeled Cooper, Joint Tabs, AM, nudged it open, and carried a single chewable to Cooper's bed. The old dog accepted it from Orion's mouth and chewed it contentedly before sighing and settling in. Orion then returned to the cabinet, nudged it closed with his shoulder, and pushed the water bowl closer to Cooper with his forehead. When the twins finally emerged, tousled and sleepy, Jennifer recounted what she'd seen with breathless disbelief. Adain said Orion is super smart, Max said, but that's like superhero smart. It's more than intelligence, Jennifer said softly. It's empathy. Throughout the week, Orion continued to astonish. He quickly learned the children's habits, presenting Maya's hairbrush each morning before she could ask, and standing by the fridge just as Max began to get thirsty. He opened latched windows when the cabin grew warm, operated the ceiling fan remote with his paw, and even unplugged Jennifer's charger one night when it began making a faint buzzing sound. But the most touching moment came when Maya grew homesick one evening. After a quiet phone call with her father, she dissolved into tears. Without a word, Orion appeared carrying something in his mouth, a framed family photo, carefully retrieved from their luggage. He placed it beside her, then pressed against her side until her crying subsided. How does he know? Maya whispered later to Elaine. Not your mind, Elaine said gently. Your heart. On their final evening, gathered around the fire toasting marshmallows, Jennifer finally voiced the question that had hovered all week. Are you ever afraid having a wild predator in your home? Elaine paused, watching Orion delicately extract a golden marshmallow from a skewer and offer it to Max. I'm not afraid of Orion, she said at last, but I am afraid for him. What do you mean? Maya asked, accepting her own marshmallow. From the Bobcat. The world doesn't always understand animals that don't fit into neat boxes, Elaine said. Orion isn't wild, but he's not tame either. He's something in between, something rare. My greatest fear is that someone might decide he doesn't belong here. But he's family, Max said, leaning unconsciously against Orion. Yes, Elaine agreed, as Cooper hobbled over to join them. But not everyone would see it that way. 6 months after the family returned to Chicago, Elaine's fears came true. A surprise visit from wildlife authorities arrived on a cold March morning, prompted by an anonymous complaint. 2 officers, stern and unreadable, stood on her porch. We've received reports, Mike Brennan began, that you're allowing the Bobcat to interact with children. That's a violation of your permit. Those children were my niece and nephew, Elaine replied. Orion has never shown aggression toward anyone. Family doesn't change the regulations, said Torres, the younger officer. We'll need to reassess the animal's status. A knot formed in Elaine's stomach. Reassess often meant relocation, or worse. Inside, Cooper whined from his bed. Orion, as usual, remained hidden from strangers. The inspection was thorough. Every shelf, ramp, and enclosure was photographed. Finally, Mike looked up from his clipboard. Where's the Bobcat? Hiding, Elaine said. He's cautious around strangers, especially in uniform. At that moment, Cooper let out a distressed whimper, struggling to rise. His legs failed him. Elaine rushed forward, but Orion appeared first, silent and steady. Without hesitation, he approached the medicine cabinet, opened it, and retrieved Cooper's pain meds. He placed them in Elaine's hand, then returned to nudge the old dog gently into a more comfortable position. Did that just happen? Torres murmured. Elaine administered the dose, then turned to them. This is what I've been trying to explain. Orion isn't just a Bobcat I rescued. He's extraordinary, Mike said quietly, his stance softening as he watched Orion gently groom Cooper's face. What followed was not a performance, but a demonstration of natural behavior born of deep connection. Orion adjusted the thermostat when Cooper shivered, brought him water, and covered him with his own blanket. By the time the officers left 2 hours later, their citation books were untouched. We'll need to create a new designation, Torres said. This doesn't fit anything we've seen. No, Mike agreed, watching Orion curl beside Cooper. He doesn't. A year later, Jennifer returned with the twins. The cabin was different now. A brass plaque beside the door read, "The Orion Study Center for Interspecies Cognition, an official facility supported by the State University." Cooper had passed that winter, but his memory filled the walls in photos, most of them with Orion. Orion now split his time between being Elaine's companion and the focus of Frank's gentle research. His abilities continued to inform wildlife policies and shift public understanding of animal intelligence. As the children ran to greet their favorite Bobcat, Jennifer noticed a new addition near the door, a framed letter from the Wildlife Commission. At the bottom, beneath formal signatures, a handwritten note read, "For Orion, who reminds us that intelligence takes many forms, compassion knows no species, and family is found in the most unexpected places." Elaine joined her, following her gaze. "Not bad for a bobcat with an IQ of 200, huh?" Jennifer smiled, watching Orion gently accept Maya's crayon drawing. "He's off the charts." In the cabin at the edge of the Ozarks, wild and domestic still blurred together, and at the center of it all was Orion, not wild, not tame, just perfectly, remarkably himself.